Ladies and gentlemen and others, thank you all for joining me once again as we resume The Idiot's Guide to Danny Phantom, Season 2 edition. Now, Season 2 is basically more of the same, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Danny Phantom is not an overly deep show like Star vs. the Forces of Evil tried to be. There really isn't too much deep physiological, psychological lore that we have to deal with. Just nice details here and there that are worth covering for you guys. Season 2, of note, brings us our first double-length episode. And actually, not just one. We get 3 double-length episodes in this season alone. Each count as 2 episodes for some reason. Which is funny to me because of those 3 episodes, Rainstorm is the only one to have a title card specifically for a Part 2. Does this have any reflection on the episode itself in terms of quality? No, not really. I just thought it was neat to point out. This season features some of my favorite episodes from the entire series. And some of my least favorite. Oh yeah, this one's gonna be fun to tear into. Anyway, enough stalling. Let's get into it, shall we? It's time for the latest installment in the ever-continuing saga known as Sam, this is all your fault.
Last night I wished Danny had never met me, and Desiree must have made it so we never met, which means he never got his powers.
So first off, it turns out that it's Sam's fault that Danny got his ghost powers in the first place because she's the one that convinced him to journey into the ghost portal to check it out. Some friend you got there, dude. Although good call on removing the Jack sticker, that would have looked tacky as fuck. But now, Danny doesn't have his ghost powers, and Danny and Tucker are acting like they've never met Sam before. Why? Because Sam and Danny got into an argument, and Sam ran her big mouth.
Danny, I swear, there are days I wish I had never even met you!
And lo and behold, Desiree overheard it and grants the wish because of course she does. So now Sam has to fix it by basically recreating Danny's origin story so he gets ghost powers and can defeat the bad guys. Okay.
Why won't you believe me?
Believe what? That I had superpowers? You and I are best friends even though I never met you? And you're the only one that knows it?
Yes! Isn't that crystal clear?
You serious?
And all just to give Danny's suit a new sticker. No, seriously. And don't get me wrong, it looks cool, and I think it does give the outfit a little more life. But seriously, this is the only change that they make to the outfit by redoing this whole origin story. Maybe it's just me, but you'd think that if they went to the trouble to basically have an origin story after we already had an origin story, they'd at least change it up a little bit. We already had an episode that detailed Danny's early struggles with his powers, and this episode basically turns into that as well, except not quite as endearing. And then the problem gets solved in basically a similar way that it was solved in What You Want. Only this time, instead of wishing that she would just disappear inside the thermos, Sam wishes to undo the fight that she had with Danny. And because Desiree apparently has the intelligence of a sewer alligator, she grants it and does herself in once again.
Wow.
Also, Danny's a fucking pervert. Nice. And all of this happens during a meteor shower where everyone gathered in the park is making wishes for Desiree to utilize.
I wish I had one of those sweet monster trucks.
Do you pay attention to anything at all, ever?
That is a rhetorical question, right? Spectra is up to her old tricks again, this time essentially poisoning the entire student body and giving them ghost powers as a side effect in order to create the perfect skin. Again.
So I could siphon away the best qualities of each of them. Jazz's brain, Dash's muscles, Paulina's nearly flawless skin.
Nearly flawless.
She has a mole. Isn't it obvious?
You consider moles a flaw? Hi, Marco Diaz would like a word with you, thank you very much.
Fuck you.
This episode is also one of Tucker's better appearances, believe it or not. He has a blatant fear of hospitals, but he works to overcome it in the episode because his friends need him. Also, he gets some pretty good lines.
Now this is going to hurt you a lot more than it hurts me.
How about neither of us gets hurt? Why isn't that an option?
There's also a touch of gross out in this episode, but it's at least used to the episode's benefit to solve the problem.
You wanted Fenton DNA. Unfortunately, you got it, courtesy of my dad's nose. There's a you blew it pun here somewhere, but I'd rather not.
That's okay, Danny. I'll do it for you. You blew it! So Spectra used these ghost bugs to dig into all of the students and infect them, and the reason that Tucker was the only one that wasn't infected was he had sprayed himself with a self-made body spray that apparently repelled the bugs or something. It's stupid, but it's hilarious. And it also cures everyone too, so that's good.
Sam, are you alright? I heard a scream.
Yeah, that was me. You'd scream too if you were stuck in a sleepover with her.
1, he still has the hots for her, so that's doubtful. 2, I doubt you're much more of a saint at a sleepover. So Danny Phantom totally predicted COVID or whatever. That's gonna make this video age well.
Leave your kids. Come to the cruise. Leave your kids. Come to the cruise.
Hey, phrasing!
So Ember's back, and this time she's not alone. She's brought along this little twat that goes by the name of Youngblood. You want to know who voiced this kid? I'll give you a minute to think about it, because I doubt you'll be able to guess it. You ready? You ready? It's Shark Boy. Yeah, Taylor Lautner. So Ember has put out this instrumental music track, which is basically an acoustic version of her hit song from Fanning the Flames. Which, by the way, if you have not listened to the full version of that song, please go do that. It's friggin' awesome. And because everyone's so enthralled with the song, they're convinced to go on a weekend cruise, which is actually just to be prisoners on the pirate ship. Which ends up resulting in Danny having to rally his classmates into joining him in a rescue mission. Gotta say, seeing Danny in his human form, fighting alongside all of his classmates as they try to rescue their parents, was a nice change of pace that I didn't know I wanted. And then Dash ruins the moment.
You're one brave geek, Fenton. When I'm wailing on you tomorrow, I'll be wailing on a hero, but I will be wailing on you.
Go fuck yourself.
Also, it's time for yet another installment of the ever-continuing saga. Sam, this is all your fault. So in the beginning, when they think this music is just a fad that's taking over the city, Sam suggests they start their own radio station and proposes breaking into the Fenton's emergency operations system in order to use their equipment while Danny's parents are away being prisoners. Then she fucking rats him out.
Hi, Danny! Thanks for letting us use the Op Center!
At this point, Mr. Reynolds, I'm convinced you have a learning disability.
I suppose I should mention my thoughts on Youngblood as a character himself. I'm not a huge fan of him. I find him to be a tad insufferable, to be honest. I get that he's probably intentionally written that way, seeing as he's meant to be written as, you know, very young, but that doesn't mean I have to like him. And I do not. He gives me some Ponyhead vibes, to be perfectly honest. Now, to be fair, he's nowhere near as obnoxious as Ponyhead. With Youngblood, I can at least just shrug and move on from his episodes when he's done. With Ponyhead, I just groan and roll my eyes. She is very annoying. He's just not doing anything for me. To be fair, though, I do like his solo episode later on in the season more than this one because, to be honest, I don't think Ember and Youngblood work that well together. I mean, I get why they were meshed together here, but his solo appearance later in the season is better than his appearance here. And now it's time for the first of our 3 double-length episodes of this season, Rainstorm, which I'm only counting as one episode for the purpose of this video because, as I mentioned, this is the only episode that has a Part 2 title card. And also, it's my channel and I can do whatever the hell I want. Remember that key that Vlad got a hold of last season? Well, this is what it's been building up to. He uses that key to unlock the Sarcophagus of Forever Sleep to release the famed Ghost King from his forever sleep. And then he gets blown up, and that's hilarious to me. So the Ghost King, properly named Pariah Dark, is, as his name suggests, the king of all ghosts. With the Fright Knight and his underlings under his command, Pariah Dark looks to spread all sorts of chaos and turmoil to both the Ghost Zone and Danny's world. Because why the fuck not? And I guess Vlad thought he could get in on this, but no, the Ghost King's not having any of it. Guess we found our headliner for the next installment of ridiculousness. So besides the action, which I'll talk about in a little bit, there's a lot of small details that the episode pulls off that really do hold up on subsequent watches. For one, there's evidence of a growing romance between Danny and Valerie, which I actually find to be a really nice touch. Now that they're on an understanding following the events of Life Lessons, it kind of makes sense to bring them a little closer together. And I do think Valerie and Danny bounce off each other very well. I love how Maddie's still pissed at Vlad for how he acted in Maternal Instincts.
Still steaming?
You have no idea.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
It was a bit cathartic seeing Danny constantly get the better of Dash throughout the episode as Dash constantly tries to bully him, even though this kind of contradicts the lesson Danny was supposed to learn in the episode Splitting Image, although my suspension of disbelief was destroyed at the toilet paper scene.
Using your powers to stuff toilet paper into a locker. He's gonna find out it's you.
Have you seen his grades?
Never gonna happen.
Every square has your father's face on them. Look, I know Dash is stupid, but he's not a fucking vegetable. We also get some proper follow-up to the fact that it was Vlad who gifted Valerie all of her ghost hunting equipment.
Why would you do that? I'm like 14.
You're also the most capable ghost hunter I've ever seen.
And he got a look at like 5 others from when he offered Danny Phantom's head as a ransom, so he knows what he's talking about.
Valerie!
My pawn. I mean, that poor girl.
Oh, come on! Anyone worth their salt would know not to yell that in open like that, you fucking idiot. There's also this scene in the middle where Sam, Tucker, and Valerie have a heart-to-heart about why Sam and Tucker don't really trust Valerie that much.
You guys don't like me very much, do you?
We don't know you very much. And honestly, you used to be pretty mean to it.
Yeah, prior to Danny being a homewrecker, Valerie was part of the popular kid chic and pretty much harassed Sam, Tucker, and Danny the way Paulina and Dash and Quan do. So honestly, Sam especially not trusting Valerie makes a lot of sense. This despite the fact that Danny and Valerie have been growing closer together because they're starting to develop feelings for each other. I'll come back to this more as we go along, because right now we have more important shit to deal with. Like Danny outing Valerie as a ghost hunter in front of her father.
You're not the boss of me.
No, but he is.
Valerie?
You're dead for this, you hear me? Dead!
All of this culminating in the kick-ass climax where Danny takes the Fenton's newest invention, the ectoskeleton, out to fight the Ghost King and lock him back away once and for all. The ectoskeleton can multiply the user's power by 100-fold. The catch is, you could fucking die.
Oh no.
I gotta say, the action in the final climax of this episode is actually some of the best that the show has ever done. It's quick, it's aggressive, it's non-stop, it's got everything. Even help from Plasmius at the end when Danny's at the end of his rope.
Things might have been weird there for a while, but if Vlad saved your life, then I say bygones.
Gesundheit. Also, he still tried to get you to dump your husband to go be with him. Even if he did save Danny's life by the dumbass logic of the episode, if he never actually apologized for doing that, then I see no reason for you to let bygones be bygones. Except for plot armor, which isn't a valid excuse. Also, I'm just gonna momentarily complain about the moral they're trying to give off again, because it's really stupid.
The power isn't the burden is in how I use it, and I've been using it poorly lately.
This is supposed to be the end result of Danny's character arc for the episode, where he learns that he shouldn't use his powers to mess with Dash, despite the fact that Dash gets pleasure out of bullying him and shows no remorse for it. Look, I get what they're going for, and it's a good lesson to teach kids. That's not a problem. But it's the same issue I had with Splitting Image. Why is the character that always gets their ass handed to them for doing nothing wrong the one that has to apologize for getting a little bit of revenge when the bully constantly gets off scot-free? That is such bullshit, I will not stand for it. But that is small potatoes for what is ultimately a really good episode, and not a bad entry for the show's first double-length episode. Unfortunately, that distinction will not remain for long because right after this, we have another double-length episode, widely considered the best episode of the entire series. And I agree. But I also have a few complaints that I need to make against this next episode, because rewatching it for this video, some of the elements that it introduces, some of the lessons it tries to instill, kinda piss me off a little. And I don't think they should go untouched. So, yeah, let's get to it, shouldn't we? Let me start off with this. Your performance in school does not determine your worth. You aren't any better than anyone else in the world just because you got straight A's and a perfect GPA or whatever, and you're no worse than anyone else if you got all failing or just barely passing grades, okay? School isn't everything. One test should not determine whether your life is a success or a failure. That's bullshit and always will be. Also, yes, working at a fast food joint or a restaurant of any kind does take its own share of skills and brains. To imply that working at a fast food restaurant is the lowest of the low that you could go, is absolutely abhorrent to me. I don't care that this is a silly cartoon. That's insulting. Furthermore, the mere implication that Danny deserves a shitty life because he considered cheating on the test, looking at the answer booklet beforehand to gauge all of the answers? No! Fuck you! Fuck you!
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you forever! Fuck yourselves! Go fuck yourselves! You fuck!
Now, I'm not condoning cheating, don't get me wrong, but surely there's a better answer than, oh, you failed this very important test? Or, oh, you cheated? Well, fuck you! You deserve to have a shit life. Go to hell! And you know what? Now with all of that out of the way, I can actually talk about the episode proper, because this episode is pretty damn good. Okay, so in this timeline, Danny suffers a catastrophic personal loss as his friends and loved ones all get killed in a nasty burger explosion. He's forced to move in with Vlad Plasmius, who shockingly takes pity on him, and agrees to help Danny by removing his ghost side from him. Although I think the intent was to remove the human side so that the ghost side would be the only one to exist, but then it goes all sky high because the ghost half doesn't take too kindly to it, rips Vlad's ghost side from his human side, merges with Vlad's ghost side, kills Vlad, and then kills Danny, presumably. Then he spends the next 10 years pretty much terrorizing the entirety of Earth and the Ghost Zone, with the exception of Amity Park, because in that time, Amity Park is able to evolve to the point where there's a gigantic ghost shield that is able to keep out even the most devastating of ghosts, until this happens.
I don't care how powerful you are, Ghost. You can't break through the shield.
Until today.
It takes 10 years, but future Danny is able to finally break through the shield thanks to a new power he mastered that's been dubbed the Ghostly Whale. So yeah, Danny Phantom in this future becomes the most evil and powerful ghost of all time. And it's up to Danny and his friends to fight this evil future and stop it from becoming a reality. So there's a lot to unpack with this episode, and I'm going to start with the intro. It's fucking awesome! Going from a nice, calm, collected aura of niceness to a whiplash of amazing action scenes. The way they handled the reveal of future Danny as the antagonist here in this scene is absolutely spectacular. I love it. That is how you set up a bigger than normal story. Beautiful.
Hello, Valerie. And goodbye.
We're also introduced to some other new ghosts in this episode, starting with Clockwork, the master of all time. This blue guy with the purple cape who keeps changing age forms because reasons. And his two sidekicks, I guess, known as the Observers. Yes, this character design is creepy as fuck. We also get some much needed payoff for the ongoing story arc where Jazz knows Danny's secret but doesn't want to tell him.
Danny, I know all of it. About everything. That you're part ghost. That you were always doing the right thing with your powers. Until now.
You knew?
I always ask myself at this point if future Danny ever found out that Jazz had known about his secret all along, earlier than he actually did. Would anything have changed? Would that little spark of humanity that seems to still be in him have reawakened and put him on the right path? Probably not, but it's nice to speculate, isn't it? But yeah, at the end of the episode, Jazz has a talk with the real Danny, the Danny she knows, and reveals that she's known about his secret since the first Spectra incident, the episode My Brother's Keeper.
I didn't want to tell you till you wanted to tell me. It's your secret.
Well, it's our secret now.
You know, I don't know how much of a hot take this actually is, but Jazz is the best character in the whole damn show. Fight me!
Fucking what?!
No, I'm serious. She's loyal and protective of Danny, but not in a way that ever becomes overbearing or obnoxious like other shows that would do this. She's both sassy and intelligent and doesn't take shit from anyone, even her own parents. And when it comes to getting involved in Danny's heroics, she proves that she's more than capable of holding her own and being incredibly cunning when the situation calls for it. When she's not getting in everyone's way, at least. And what would I do if I didn't talk about the climax to this episode? It's some of the best action this show ever put out. It's high stakes, it's fast, it's impactful, you feel every punch. And of course it culminates with Danny, our Danny, learning the Ghostly Whale.
You promised?
Yes!
I promise!
That power. Oh, it's not possible. I don't get that power until 10 years from now.
You also never learn how to harness the power of ice. So, yeah, you chose the wrong future, buddy. Oh yeah, Danny learns how to harness the power of ice next season. Spoilers! I may bitch and complain about the morals this episode is trying to teach in terms of cheating and taking your future seriously.
Name one evil thing I've done.
Danny's a cheater!
Fuck you.
But this episode really does live up to the hype as one of the best, if not the best, of the whole series, and it's still aged very well. If you do only watch one episode of Danny Phantom, make it this one. It really deserves the hype. Otherwise, if there's one genuine criticism I have, it's not even about the episode. It's the fact that this is future Danny's only appearance in the entire show. That's right, despite this ending tease, future Danny never actually comes back in another episode. Clockwork comes back, the Observers come back, but not future Danny. He doesn't even get a mention. If this is not the definition of a cockblock, I don't know what is. So Johnny 13 was an episode that I was initially very down on, but as I watched it more and more, I kind of warmed up to it and what it was going for. This episode had the opposite reaction for me. I was initially very high on the episode, but the more I watched it, the more I soured on it. My biggest complaint with it is the fact that they seem to turn some of the characters stupid for the sake of being stupid. For example, you reference the Ghost Catcher and the episode it originated from, and yet it takes you half of this episode to remember what the hell it did.
Something must have gone horribly awry when I used the Ghost Catcher to duplicate myself.
You didn't duplicate yourself. You split yourself in half.
You're an idiot.
But in theory, another trip through the Ghost Catcher should straighten out this mess.
There is logic in what he says.
So Technus is reintroduced again properly in this episode, and his reappearance aggravates Danny to the point where he decides he's sick and tired of his ghost's fighting life interfering with his personal life, and he decides to split himself using the Ghost Catcher so he doesn't have to worry about that anymore.
The Fenton Ghost Catcher expunges all things ghostly.
So the three of you recall the Ghost Catcher and use it, and yet later in the episode you're shocked when Fun Danny, as he calls himself, can't phase through walls, and Super Danny can't turn back into a human because he's all ghost. How much rig juice did you people drink before you started filming the episode? So a little detail I really appreciate about this episode is how Technus is reintroduced. Recall how in Teacher of the Year last season, Technus got trapped in the game called Doom. Well, the beginning of the episode shows Danny deleting the game off of his computer, and when that happens, Technus breaks free. Somehow. I don't exactly understand how that would work, but I'm not a technician, so whatever. But yeah, it's small details like that that really go a long way into making your show. It doesn't matter how shallow or how deep your continuity is, as long as it's consistent and tightly wound, it's all good. It's better to be conservative and have all your points in place than go really ambitious and do whatever the hell Star vs. the Forces of Evil did. Sorry.
You done fucked it up!
I'll also say I actually find some of the banter between Super Danny and Fun Danny in the second half of the episode to be pretty amusing, especially after they screw around with the Ghost Catcher a second time and then end up splitting their powers between the two of them. It makes for some amusement in the combat and the dialogue, but only goes so far. I consider this one to be one of the weaker episodes of the season, but it's by no means bad. And if nothing else, I dig Technus' new design at the end. Now, if only he could learn to stop shouting his fucking plans.
You still can't get past my ghost shield!
Dude, that only works if we're outside the ghost shield.
Then how the hell did it stop you from transforming into Danny Phantom when you were in the ghost shield in the episode Pirate Radio?
Great continuity!
So, full disclosure, some of the episodes in Season 2, and especially Season 3, did air out of production order. For example, this particular episode, which showcases Jazz still trying to conceal from Danny the fact that she knows he's half ghost, despite the fact that this technically aired after the Ultimate Enemy. The problem is, there are conflicting sources as to what the true episode order is for Season 2 and Season 3. So, I'm going with what I have. I'm addressing it here because it's only a couple of more episodes until we get to Secret Weapons, the episode that truly showcases Jazz knowing Danny's secret out in the open. And this is really the last episode to prominently feature Jazz trying to keep her knowledge of Danny's secret away from Danny in a big role. But rest assured, Season 3 will be handled differently because the lapses in airing order in that season are much more egregious than they are here. So with all of that out of the way, let's get to this episode and the issues with it. So this episode marks the return of Youngblood, the villain that was introduced in the episode Pirate Radio. Except this time he's not a pirate, he's a cowboy for some reason. Okay, so his actual quirk is that he cannot be seen by adults or teenagers that fancy themselves adults. Only people that act childish. Which is kind of dumb. On one hand, I feel like I'd like his character a lot more if this was his introduction episode, as opposed to Pirate Radio, because, let's be honest, Youngblood works better as a solo act, as opposed to in a team-up like he was with Ember. But at the same time, I'm not really feeling Youngblood as an antagonist. And considering that Youngblood gets literally one more appearance after this episode, in next season, and it's just a cameo by the way, I guess the show felt the same way about him. Oh, and next time we see him, it's as an astronaut motif, because of course it is. I will say, though, the scene where Danny basically had to get Jazz to stoop to his level in order to see Youngblood there was pretty damn amusing. It does help make up for a lot of the meh-ness that I get from this episode, but it doesn't quite make up for the fact that this episode is essentially every Phineas and Ferb episode ever. Except here, Candace actually wins. I also feel like the themes of the episode are a little bit off, per se. Like, it opens up with Jazz complaining about how she feels like she's the only mature and sensible person in the family, which she is. And apparently the lesson she was supposed to learn was that it's okay to act childish sometimes. I get that that was supposed to tie into Youngblood's quirk with how he can only be seen by kids, but I don't know. It might just be me, but it feels like there's a screw that's just not connecting somewhere. That really feels like this whole episode in a nutshell. Nothing here is bad, it's just meh. No, actually, I take that back. There is one thing that creeps the crap out of me.
The Tucker Foley Alibi-O-Matic. Just set it behind closed doors and presto, you're home asleep.
Okay, but why though?
But wait, there's more. There's head coach. And my specialty.
No! Also, if Youngblood can't be seen by anyone that fancies themselves an adult, how did he avoid detection from all the adults that he and Ember captured in Pirate Radio? Did Youngblood just not interact with any of them at all? Was that all Ember's responsibility? Of course, make the adult do all the dirty work while the kid just sits around and gets all the glory. I feel like that would have been a much clever metaphor if the writing for the show was even better. 'Twas the night before Christmas all throughout Amity Park. All souls were lifted, save for one, whose was pitch dark. And no, I don't mean Sam, who's as gleeful as can be, despite not even celebrating Christmas. She's festive, you see, and the shtick gets old quite fast. It's all one giant whelp.
Have a kickin' Kwanzaa!
Stop it. Get some help.
No, it's actually the ghost boy Danny who's our Christmas grump, because his parents constantly fight over Santa Claus. Well, it could be worse. It's not the stump. The constant bickering and fighting makes our ghost kid cynical and crass, but his attitude towards the holidays finally bites him in the ass. He screws over an innocent by destroying his book, so he returns to his keyboard to see what mischief he can cook. Now everyone, including Danny, is trapped in a Christmas rhyme. He'll have to learn his lesson to celebrate it on time. He'll have to do it alone. No one's any the wiser, all while Danny's rage builds until he explodes like a geyser. But a wrench thrown into everything, something Danny did not expect. A one-day ghostly truce, traditions they must protect. They all join together to go after the Ghost Rider. Anyone who breaks tradition is the worst. Though shouldn't they be going after Danny, because technically he did it first? It's actually quite impressive they did most of this in rhyme. My admiration has only grown with the passage of time. Of course, not every rhyme is clever. This statement is true.
I snuck out and found this. It's all of your favorites. And here, Mom, for you.
Favorites.
That's a cheap one.
Fuck you.
The action is solid, though far from the best, but after the ultimate enemy, it casts an unfair light on the rest. Danny's character here is also good. Crass and cynical, but sympathetic. I think they do a marvelous job of pulling off the Scrooge aesthetic. I haven't even mentioned the Ghost Rider yet, who uses Danny brilliant like he's a marionette. And better yet, he's voiced by the greatest actor of all time, BoJack Horseman, Will Arnett. If I have to complain, and unfortunately I must, I hated Danny's parents in this episode. Their role was a total bust. They pissed me off to no end. Endearing, they were not. Danny's right to be pissed. They act like sniveling little twats.
What got into him?
He takes after his mother.
I hope you guys are loaded, because you're going to have some serious therapy bills to cover. Way to take a steaming dump over your parental responsibilities.
At this point, Mr. Reynolds, I'm convinced you have a learning disability.
Despite that, I have to say, the episode is a good watch, so please, feel free to check it out, or I'll kick you in the fucking crotch. And even with these issues, I absolutely have to say, there's no way in hell this episode's worse than Stump Day.
Nice sentiment, but what are you, a greeting card?
Yeah, why are you talking in rhyme?
Because Danny's finally in tune with the holiday spirit, you uncultured swine. Okay, I'm done, promise.